Let's have a look at LogicStudio.ai. This is one of the first open source tools that we built for AI usage, and it's probably the first one that Alberta actually released fully open source. So we're really happy with this one. We get a lot of usage out of it ourselves. It's a pretty cool tool. You can build visual agent workflows on a canvas, and you can download them, you can share them. It's all local on your browser, so there's no server side where you're deploying these like an N8N yet, but we can create visual workflows. We have multiple agents working together. You can audit and measure your decision paths. You can look at integration. There's API integration and a number of other really cool real-time features. And of course, it's fully open source from the government of Alberta. Let's dive in and play with it. So the concept is, like many of the other agentic workflow tools, you can drag and drop these cards onto a canvas. You can move them around, and you can give them system prompt, user prompt. You can pick the model type that you want. All of these model types are supported, and you can connect them together. So if I have an agent that's going to generate something, I can create an output and download that as a file, for example. So once the agent does something, I can download that as a markdown file. So you can really easily just build these connections. You can delete them. You can add cards. And you can delete those cards as well. And there's a variety of cards here. The idea is that it doesn't do everything, but it probably covers off a number of different workflows. And really getting started, it's a tremendously useful tool to learn how to build agentic workflows and to refine your agents before you go off and build them into a production application, for example. Packaged with it, we built some really simple templates. So you can actually just add this one, which I really like, which is this Canadian news aggregator. I'm just going to delete that one. And the idea is you can have it, I had one agent come here and define the top 20 news sites around the world. And then I further refined it to be in Canada. And if you click load websites, it scrapes every single website that you see here. So you can see it just scraped those top 9 websites. And then it will go through and it will analyze that information, and it will run it through a set of agents that will break down the news headlines, group them thematically, and even write them into a detailed analysis. And all we have to do is we just hit the trigger. So step number 1 is it's going to do the web scraping and do all of that analysis. Step number 2, it goes to this agent we call News Beast, which reads and summarizes the headlines from a Canadian context. So we might want to know everything going on in Canada today. So this is June the 5th. So these are the headlines from these different news sites happening today. So News Beast is going to go and read and parse and extract everything that relates to Canada. We can monitor that while it works. We can actually see the different news headlines that it's parsing out. So these are the news headlines from today from each of these different news sites, both in English and French in our case. And then it goes on to, once that's done, it's going to go on to the news reporter, and then finally it'll do the entity extraction. So it'll actually parse out every single character that it found in this text. So it's going to do the news reporter right now. You see the little yellow dot means that this agent is running. And then finally, it's going to go on and it's going to do the entity extraction last. So it's going to execute and parse out every single person that it found. So here it's doing that analysis. It's joining it all together. And then in the end, it gives us this lovely PDF. So let me open this PDF. And here is the news information right live to the moment that I'm doing this. So these are all of the headlines that are happening in the world based on these news sites. Domestic policy, immigration, finance, economics, climate change, social issues, labor relations, sports, and then even by province, breaking it down by province, by area, etc. And then finally at the bottom, we can scroll all the way to the bottom and we can see all of the different entities that it extracted out. So these are all of the different people that made headlines this morning. So if you had a watch set up that anytime you wanted to see something about Jim Balsillie, for example, you could actually then push to an API and get notified on your phone to say, oh, there's a headline about Jim Balsillie. And so that's just one of, that's a bit of a fun use case. And there's sort of an unlimited number of different agentic workflows that you can build here. We also have another fun one that we can add, which is this hot topics generator. So it will actually just read the news website, CBC News. It's It's going to develop a 5-part business idea, a book idea, if you will, from news headlines. It's going to pick one headline. It's going to say the psychology of secondhand shopping. So that's the story headline that it's gone with. It's going to write each of those different 5 parts of a theoretical book. So imagine you were doing book research and you wanted to write part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. So these agents are each expanding out every concept that it's finding in the story idea. And then the last 2 steps is first it writes a letter to your agent. So it says, hey, agent, I had a great idea for a book based on some current news headlines. So it'll write that letter, and then it'll even write some sample pages to get you started in your book writing. And it will put all those together so you can download it and do your own analysis. So it's nearly done that work right there. We'll come to the other side here as it's going through. And then when it's done, it's going to join all that together. It's going to write the letter to the editor, and it's going to download those sample pages. So we'll give it a second to finish. When you're on your canvas, by the way, you can upload and download these canvases, so you can save them locally, back them up, because this is your intellectual property. We don't need to retain it. And of course, the app's fully open source. You can just run it locally on your own PC. It's just a simple JavaScript-based application, so you can launch it and use it locally. So let's see about the story about secondhand shopping. So let's open the first document here. So let's have a look at the first document here. The first document is indeed the letter to John Smith, your hypothetical book editor. It talks about why this book is important and how it's relevant today, so that's kind of cool. Do number 2, where it's going to talk about the actual book structure. So here is the name of the book, The Evolution of Thrift Culture from the 1940s to the 1990s, some historical development, modern transformation, market size, cultural acceptance, consumer demographics, economic factors, market forces, technology integration, etc. So it has a whole breakdown of all of the different areas of research that you might do. And then let's look at some of the sample pages that it even wrote for us. So let's look at part 3, which is these pages. So it talks about this character, Sarah, standing in her garage surrounded by towers of storage bins, and her process of going through and becoming a thrift shopper. So those are just a couple of little samples to inspire you and get you going. So that's a whole workflow. You can run this as many times as you want, and you can have it set up to run once daily, and you can get your inspiration out of there. And I even have one for weather forecast. So here we actually do an API call. So we go to this site, which is called Pirate Weather. It pulls the weather forecast for Edmonton. It does an analysis on how much energy we're likely to use, and it even gives you a heat loss calculation by day around how much heat you're likely to spend. Actually, by hour, it breaks it down the number of BTUs you're likely to expend and how much money that's going to cost you. So you can actually use the weather forecast to forecast your energy usage bill for heating and cooling. And that's just another simple example with some API integration. So play around with Logic Studio. It has a tremendous ability to add as many cards as you want, integrate with as many different agents as you want, and right out of the box you can build some pretty dynamic, pretty sophisticated workflows to operate your business or even to use in your personal life.